Father's Day war between members of the British royal family belies a much wider feud with...
3 minutes ago, the royal story everyone thought was simple started to look a lot more complicated because the timing, the wording, and the silence around it do not line up the way people expected. And once you notice that, you start asking the real question. What exactly was said behind closed doors? What was being asked for in the first place? And why does this visit feel less like a family return and more like a test? Before we go any further, make sure you're subscribed right now because this channel breaks down royal stories the moment they start shifting, and this one is already moving fast. If you want the real story behind the headlines, not just the headline itself, hit subscribe now because what's unfolding here is bigger than a single trip, and the details are changing by the minute. At the center of this is a return that should have looked straightforward on paper. Prince Harry is expected back in Britain with Meghan and their children next month, marking the first time in more than 4 years that his family will be in the UK together for an event tied to the one-year countdown to the Invictus Games. On the surface, that sounds like a ceremonial visit, something focused, controlled, even polite, but royal history almost never stays that neat. Because whenever Harry comes back, the attention does not stay on the event for long. It shifts, it moves toward the family, toward the palace, toward the question everybody keeps circling but nobody seems eager to answer out loud. Will this be a public thaw, a private meeting, or yet another appearance that looks symbolic from a distance and frozen up close? That is where Meghan's reported final plea changes the temperature of the whole story. According to the way this situation is being framed, Meghan wanted access to the palace for a photo opportunity, not a private reconciliation, not a quiet conversation, not a careful step toward repair, a photo op. And that detail matters because a public image can say everything while revealing almost nothing. It can suggest unity, it can soften criticism, it can reset the tone instantly. Except this time, the message from the palace appears to have been the opposite. The door is closed. That is the part that lands hardest because it suggests this was not just about logistics, it was about limits, about boundaries, about who gets to shape the picture and who does not. And in royal circles, when a request is denied so cleanly, the refusal often says more than any official statement ever could. Now, the story starts to split into 2 layers. One layer is the public visit next month, the family traveling to the UK, the Invictus-related appearance, the kind of event that can be presented as neutral and honorable. But the other layer is the one people are leaning toward now, the idea that a return to Britain does not automatically mean royal access, or royal warmth, or royal permission. And that's where the tension really builds. Because if Meghan's request was to enter the palace for a photo moment, then the answer being no is not just a scheduling issue, it's a signal. It tells viewers, and likely everyone inside the royal machine, that whatever image management was hoped for is not happening on palace terms. This is no longer about being seen, it's about being allowed. And there's something else here that makes the whole thing feel even more deliberate. This visit comes at a moment when every move by Harry and Meghan is watched through 2 lenses at once. Personal, because this is still a family story with history, emotion, and all the unresolved damage that people can feel even when they never speak it out loud. Political, because every appearance becomes a public statement, whether they intend it or not. So when the palace reportedly closes the door, it doesn't just reject a request, it shuts down a narrative. That's the twist most people may miss at first. The issue may not be whether Meghan and Harry are visiting Britain. The issue is that their presence no longer automatically opens the same royal pathways it once did. The institution appears to be drawing a very visible line. Attendance at a UK event does not equal palace access, and family ties do not necessarily translate to public reconciliation. And if that's true, then the upcoming trip is not just a homecoming, it's a stress test. A test of how the public reads them, a test of how the royals respond, a test of whether the Sussexes can step back into Britain without the kind of symbolic image they may have once hoped for. Because a photo opportunity inside the palace would have communicated something powerful. It would have suggested a soft reset, maybe even a thaw. The refusal suggests the exact opposite. No reset, no soft landing, no easy visual story. What makes this even more interesting is the contrast between the event itself and the surrounding drama. The Invictus Games countdown is meant to be about service, resilience, and international attention on veterans. That gives the trip a serious purpose, but royal stories have a way of swallowing the original headline. Suddenly, the focus is not the mission, but the family, not the event, but the symbolism, not the cause, but the optics. And that may be exactly why the reported plea matters so much, because if the palace had agreed, the pictures would have dominated everything. If it refused, then the refusal becomes the story. Either way, someone loses control of the narrative, and right now, it looks like the palace made sure that control stayed where it wanted it. So now, the question hanging over next month is sharper than before. Will Harry travel as planned and keep the focus strictly on the event? Will Meghan still come with the children and keep the visit low-key? Or will the absence of that palace moment fuel even more speculation about whether the royal rift is not just unresolved, but officially beyond the point of repair? Because once a door is said to be closed, people stop asking whether it will open. They start wondering who shut it and what that really means for the future. And that's the part nobody can ignore now. This may not be a story about a rejected request at all. It may be a story about the palace quietly deciding that some bridges are no longer meant to be crossed.